who one day put up a sign out on his yard that said, "I will give this house to any man who can prove to me he is content." Have you heard of that story? Well, after a while, someone came knocking at the door, and he said, "Sir, I am perfectly content. I saw your sign up front, and I came here to claim this house." Well, so the Quaker asked what he meant. The owner of the house asked him what he meant by "I'm perfectly content." And the Quaker said, "I have everything I want, all the money I need, everything in life that could satisfy. I am perfectly content." The Quaker said, "Friend, if you are so content, what do you want with my house?" You know, that's a revelation of how subtly these desires for more and more can creep into our thinking. Okay, I'm going to backtrack here a little bit here. Okay, here is a Ministry of Healing, page 241. The condition of the mind affects the health to a far greater degree than many realize. Many of these diseases from which men suffer are the result of mental depression, grief, anxiety, discontent, remorse, guilt, distrust. All tends to break down life forces and to invite decay and death. A lot of people look for happiness and contentment in the wrong place. Some people resort to drugs and alcohol and other entertainment that the world offers, and only thing about all these is they offer momentary happiness. They pass away rather quickly. But you see, the pen of inspiration says things like depression, grief, anxiety, discontentment, remorse, guilt, distrust. It's not good for your health. It's not good for your health. And it is God's design that we stay healthy in this life. And the Proverbs 17, verse 22 also says, "A contented mind, a cheerful spirit is what? Is health to the body and strength to the soul. A merry heart, rejoicing heart, does good like a medicine." So mental health is so important to all of us, and we all know that. So with that introduction, I would like to introduce to you principles of a personal contentment. And when you think about personal contentment, there are three approaches to life. And Paul shares two of them here, but I'm going to share three of them to begin with here. Three approaches to life. And that is, first of all, victim approach. Second, the learning approach. Third, leading approach. Now, Paul talks about second and third. He didn't talk about first one, although if you look at the whole book, context, you're going to get all three from the Bible. But basically, there are three different approaches to life, and I'm going to spend 33% on the first one, which is negative. But majority of them, 66% on the last two, all right? That's better than 80-20, right? Yeah, yeah, I was thinking about that as you were talking about that during Sabbath school. All right, because I don't want to fall into the category of speaking all about, negative stuff and the symptoms of problems and so forth. Because when you think about problems, there's no end to it. When you think about worries and anxiety, there's no end to it. There's no end to it. So here is the victim approach to life. Victim approach. Now, those who indulge in victim approach, they tend to indulge in momentary happiness. And it's easy to get a shot of momentary happiness. People get addicted to drugs, alcohols, sports, drugs, and pornography, and all that kind of things that gives them momentary happiness. But that all came from our ancestor. When you think about it, Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. God said, what happened to you, Adam? Who gave you the fruit? What did Adam say? The woman whom you gave to be with me gave to me, and I ate. So God turns to Eve and said, okay, woman, what happened to you? What did she say? She said, the serpent deceived me and I ate it, she said. Devil made me do it, she said. That's essentially what she said. The devil made me do it. So we are born with that kind of a tendency. We have a lot of things to overcome in this life. So the person who have this approach to life, they play blame game. You would think that you don't find these kind of people in church, especially if they are church members for all their lives. Not so. In my previous district, I met several of them who have this victim approach to life. And they always blame someone or something. That's why they are in this condition right now, they say. And no matter how you counsel them, they will always talk about their past. Why they were born into poverty. Why they got into drug and why. And someone made me do this and do that. And they always play this victim approach to life. Playing blame games. And they have unresolved issue, therefore. Undoubtedly, they always have this unresolved issue. They have a pain, they have anger boiling inside, and they have never come to resolve these issues in life. And many of them resort to some addiction that can alter their biochemistry, using drugs, alcohol, many forms of different drugs. Your brain is literally rewired when you resort to these kind of dangerous substances. And that leads to momentary changes with disastrous long-term effect when you do that. Pseudo happiness, counterfeit high. They quickly evaporate. And they let circumstance control you. But people should know better. They need to rise above their circumstance by the grace of God, by the power of God. You are able to rise above your circumstance. God has given us that ability to do that. But those who resort to that victim approach to life, they should know that it's never the solution to lasting happiness and contentment. Now, when disaster hit the land, when the disaster hit our land, how a person with a victim approach would respond. Let's say the fire broke out and they lost their homes, and the person who has victim approach will say, how can God do this to me? And in fact, I just remembered, someone who had been in the church. Matter of fact, PK. When the fire went through the greater Santa Rosa area a few years ago, and hundred of multi-million dollars homes were taken out. And that Sabbath morning, the member came up and in the church parking lot and said, how can God do this? That person was so mad. And he no longer attended church since that time.
That makes Satan happy.
That's what Satan wants. In fact, I put together this PowerPoint this morning because I felt that I need to do that. And I came up with this important statement from Great Controversy. Page 589. Satan works through the elements also to garner his harvest of unprepared souls. He has studied the secrets of the laboratories of nature, and he uses all his power to control the elements as far as God allows. When he was suffered to afflict Job, how quickly flocks and herds and servants, houses, children were swept away, one trouble succeeding another, as in a moment. It is God that shields his creatures and hedges them in from the power of the destroyer. Notice what he says. The devil has studied the secrets of the laboratories of nature. And what does he do with that? He uses all his power to control the elements of nature. And he continues to say, he will withdraw his blessings from the earth and remove his protecting care from those who are rebelling against his law and teaching and forcing others to do the same. Satan has control of all whom God does not, especially God. He will favor and prosper some in order to further his own designs, and he will bring trouble upon others and lead men to believe that it is God who is afflicting them. You see what Satan is doing with the disasters? They want them to believe that God is originator of these disasters. While appearing to the children of man as a great physician who can heal all their maladies, he will bring disease and disaster until populous cities are reduced to ruin and desolation. Even now, he is at work in accidents and calamities by sea and by land, in great conflagrations, in fierce tornadoes and terrific hailstorms, in tempests, floods, cyclones, and tidal waves and earthquakes in every place and in 1,000 forms. Satan is exercising his power. Who's exercising his power? Satan. God is not the originator of calamities. Okay. He sweeps away the ripening harvest, and famine and distress follow. He imparts. Who imparts? The devil. Satan imparts to the air a deadly taint, and thousands perish by the pestilence. These visitations are to become more and more frequent and disastrous as we come to the end of the time. Destruction will be upon both man and beast, And then the great deceiver will persuade men that those who serve God are causing these evils. And we are seeing all of that today. We are seeing all of that everywhere, all around the world. Don't let anyone deceive you that God is doing all this. So why is God allowing all this? That reminds me of 2 Peter, talking about Jesus' second coming and the end of the world. But the day of the Lord will come as a thief in the night, in which the heavens will pass away with a great noise, and the elements will melt with a fervent heat. Both the earth and the works that are in it will be burned up. Therefore, since all these things will be dissolved, what manner of a person ought you to be in holy conduct and godliness, looking for and hastening the coming of the day of God, because of which the heavens will be dissolved, being on fire, and the elements will melt with a fervent heat. Why does God allow all this? Obviously, God knows what's happening here. Obviously, He's allowing all these things to happen. Why? One answer to that why is because God wants His people to be prepared. Preparation is needed. That's why. That's only one of the answers to why here. There are other reasons, of course. Now, the second approach to life is learning approach. Now, Apostle Paul is showing the better way of thinking, and he is supremely confident about this new approach to life. And he says in Philippians chapter 4, verse 11, "For I have learned to be content, whatever the circumstances." That's why he's able to rise above his circumstances, you see. "I know that it is to be in need, and I know what it is to have plenty. I have learned the secret of being content." Now, people like secret. Do you like secrets? You know, people say, if someone say, "Okay, I have a secret to tell you," and you're all up for it, you know, "Okay, what's the secret? Tell me, what is it?" Okay, Paul says, "I have learned the secret of being content in any and every situation, whether well-fed or hungry, whether living in plenty or in want." Let me tell you a secret, Paul says. Now, when you read this text, immediately we learn something here. And first one is that contentment is not automatic, but must be learned over time. Paul says, "I have learned to be content." He was not born with gift of contentment, was he? No, he wasn't. Do you know of anyone who has a gift, who is born with a gift of contentment? No, when baby cries, when baby hungry, what does he do? What do? They cry, right? They're not happy because they're hungry. That contentment is an attitude that needs to be learned over time. And if you do not learn the art of contentment, you know, you are in trouble in this life. Now, many of us have attained certain level of contentment. I have attained certain level of contentment myself. But I know that I have long ways to go because there are different levels of contentment. Am I right? Yes. And once you reach certain level of contentment, you get the insight as to how you can gain even more contentment in your life. You see? So, when we get to heaven, what do you think will happen to the level of contentment? Well, when we get to heaven, our joy and happiness will continue to increase. Again, learn to be content is not a gift, but it is an attitude. All right? Again, the last chapter in the book Great Controversy, last page. He says, with unutterable delight, the children of earth enter into the joy and the unfallen being. They share the treasures of knowledge and understanding gained through ages upon ages in contemplation of God's handiwork. With undimmed vision, they gaze upon the glory of creation, sun, stars, and system, all in their appointed order, circling the throne of deity. Upon all things, from the least to the greatest, the Creator's name is written, and all are the riches of His power displayed, and the years of eternity, as they roll, will bring richer and still more glorious revelations of God and of Christ. As knowledge is progressive, so will love, reverence, and happiness increase. What an insight that is. You know, heaven is going to be an institution of learning. Because God's knowledge is infinite. And you are going to enroll into school of learning in heaven. We will continue to study the science of God, and we will continue to marvel at the wonderful things that God has created, and that'll never cease. Throughout eternity, our joy, happiness, the level of contentment will increase. Anyone want to miss that in heaven? I don't think so. I don't want anyone to miss that, what God is offering to us. The knowledge is progressive, so is learning. So this is a learning approach to life that Paul is talking about here. He said, I have learned to be content. Look how clearly Paul states in this truth in verse 11 as he declares, I have learned to be content. I have learned the secret of being content. It wasn't a gift from God. He had learned. Problem with us is we are so slow to learn. I don't know about you. That's how I feel. I feel I'm so slow in learning. And as I look back my life, I wish I learned a lot faster because I see so much to learn before me. There's so much to learn before me. And that quest of learning is forever elusive to many people. You know why? Because a lot of people look for it at a wrong place to begin with. But you and I know where to begin with. Where to begin. We have so much to learn, so much to learn. Bible can never be exhausted. There's always something to learn from the Bible. Amen. That leads me to a next and even better approach to life. Yeah, learning is part of life, yes. But here is something better. And that is a leading approach to life. leading approach to life. Now, life involves a battle for who is going to be in charge of our lives. And there are all kinds of insecure people out there who would like to take control of our decision-making process. Now, this has something to do with the decision-making process. In order to lead your life successfully, you cannot avoid decision-making process here. And you have to be personally committed to making decisions, small and great decisions throughout your life. In order to understand leading approach to life, you have to look at the life of Jesus and the life of disciples. It was John F. Kennedy in his inauguration service. He said, instead of thinking what this country can do for you, think of what you can do for your country. That is a leading approach. If you're always thinking of what this country can do for me, that's far from this approach to life. In the same fashion, I would like to say this, in the similar fashion here. Instead of thinking what this church can do for you, think of what you can do for this church. That is a leading approach to life. That is a leading approach to life. Now, there's a difference between being convicted and something else. Something popped up here. Okay, sorry. There's a difference between being convicted and being convinced. Now, I need you to take away today with conviction that God is leading you to this approach to life. Learning approach and leading approach to life. These are the takeaway for you this morning. Now, but there is a difference between being convinced and being convicted. And I'm thinking of Felix, the governor of Judea, who loved bribe and who loved power, and he came across Paul, and he was convinced that Paul was innocent. Did he let him go because he was convinced? No. He was not convicted. When you have that commitment born out of conviction, you are well settled into truth so that nothing can move you. You know, sealing is settling into truth, right? The sealing of God in the last days is settling into truth. You are so convicted, no circumstance, nothing on this earth can move you from that conviction. Problem with a lot of people is that people are convinced of a lot of things, but they're not being moved by being convinced. When you're convicted, nothing can move you or sway you from the principle of God. Now, leading approach is a little difficult when you think about it. When you think about decision-making process and you say, okay, I'm not born as a leader. Yes, not everyone is called to be a leader. Many of us, in fact, are good followers, right? Nothing's wrong with that. We need to follow Jesus, right? Jesus is the ultimate leader. But then he has leaders appointed everywhere. But not everyone is called to be leaders. So how can you have a leading approach to life? How can you be a leader? Well, it's the same as like this here. Not everyone has gift of giving, right? Very few people have gift of giving. There are many spiritual gifts that are mentioned in the Bible. Gift of giving is one of them. Not everyone has gift of giving, but everyone is expected to give tithe and offering, right? Everyone, whether you have a gift of giving or not, they are all expected. God expects you to return tithe and offering. So yes, not everyone is called to be a leader in the church or elsewhere, but everyone is expected to lead their own life. And that involves decision-making process. I've seen many people who are indecisive, and therefore they lose a lot in life. And I wish they would make decisions. Sometimes even if you make a wrong decision, oftentimes wrong decision is not a wrong decision if you learn something from that wrong decision. But you have to make that decision. Don't let anybody else make that important decision for you and for your life. In that sense, you are leading your own life. You are the leader of your own life. And that leading approach to life is what Paul is talking about here, as well as learning approach. I have learned to be content. But he was leading his own life as well. He was called to be a leader. Yes, he was different from us. And if you give other people or other things control over your decision making, you will never become the person you were meant to be. And with this leading approach to life, you need to refuse to let circumstance dominate your attitude. Let me tell you a story of a Ryan White, 13-year-old boy. He had a terminal cancer. So he had to do a surgery, and blood transfusion was done. But in the process of blood transfusion, he was infected with AIDS. Whose fault was that? Well, it wasn't his fault. And he was dying because of someone else's mistake. And he knew that he was going to die. Now he could play blame game here and say, oh, because of hospital and because of this and that, I'm dying. But this boy remarkably took different approach to life in his dying bed. He never complained, and he went on to continue to go to school for a while until his health continued to deteriorate, so much so he finally became bedridden. And he often comforted his mom and dad, encouraged them. Because of this crisis, he became mature and he decided to take different life approach, leading approach to life. That is to say, instead of what I can get out of church, what I can do for the church approach. Anyway, Ryan White died at the age of 18. He lived 5 more years after that surgery. And here is the last conversation with his dad. Listen here. Last conversation he had with his dad, family. Son, I am sorry. Now there is nothing I can do for you. This is the father saying to the son. Please forgive me that there are nothing left I can give you. Dad, so far I was given a lot of gifts in my life, but no one ever gave me a gift quite like yours. Dad, you gave me the ticket to heaven as a gift. You introduced me to Jesus. It is because of you that I began going to church, believed in Jesus, and received eternal life as a gift. There are no gift greater than this. What a powerful testimony that is. What a powerful testimony that is. This boy simply took a different approach to life, leading approach to life. My Life Today, page 174. The pen of inspiration says, thankful hearts and kind looks are more valuable than wealth and luxury. And contentment with the simple things will make home happy if love be there. Here is the secret of content and peace and happiness. The true Christian seeks to live a life of usefulness and conform his habits to the example of Jesus. Such a one will find the truest happiness, the reward of well-being. Such a one will be lifted above the slavery of an artificial life into the freedom and grace of Christ-like simplicity. Amen. If there is love there, there will be happiness, contentment, and joy. In closing, I want to tell you a story of Fanny Crosby. How many of you heard of the name Fanny Crosby? We all know her, don't we? You know, after losing her eyesight at an early age, she determined to find peace and contentment. And her example will challenge all of us to depend fully upon God. This is what she said. It seemed intended by the blessed providence of God that I should be blind all my life, and that I thank Him for the dispensation. If perfect earthly sight were offered to me tomorrow, I would not accept it. I might not have sung hymns to the praise of God if I had been distracted by the beautiful and interesting things about me, she said. Oh, what a happy soul am I, although I cannot see. I am resolved that in this world contented I shall be. How many blessings I enjoy that other people don't. To weep and sigh because I am blind. I cannot and I won't. What is she saying? To me, she's saying, if I can do it over and given a chance or choice to make between being blind and having a normal vision, she says she would choose being blind. Why? Because she realizes that she has she has gained so much spiritual insight and blessings that could not have attained if she had a normal vision. There's a different levels of contentment. I would think she has attained probably one of the highest contentment human beings can attain. That's because she was blind. As you know, she has written many wonderful hymns of inspiration. No doubt she was inspired to write these poems. And the one I'm thinking right now is hymn number 329, which is our closing hymn. She said, "Take the world, but give me Jesus. In his cross my trust shall be, till with clearer, brighter vision, face to face, my Lord I see." She will be happier to see Jesus more than anybody else. Praise God. Let's sing the song together.